Hello and welcome to Cross Circle Squared. I'm Benny Girkman, and this is TouchPad, your daily video game news show where I, Benny Girkman, talk about the three most important stories of the day in an easily listenable format for your commute, your lunch break, or wherever else you want to listen to us. First things first for today, we're not going to go right into the news stories like we normally would. I want to explain this whole channel and what we have going on here. This is Cross Circle Squared. I am the owner? I'm the creator. I guess I am the owner as well of Cross Circle Squared. Benny Girkman. I'm new to the games industry as a whole. I'm currently studying journalism and creative writing in school. Looking to be a video game writer, video game journalist as my career. So I figured I'd start this little channel in my free time, get something going here that I can, use my portfolio or maybe turn it into a career one day. I am joined by two contributors. I say we all the time. It's mainly me. I have two contributors, though, right now. My good friend Karlec. He's a YouTuber who focuses a lot on older games or games you might not really know about, little obscure titles that I've certainly never seen before, as well as just, whatever interests him. He makes little videos, kind of 5-6 minute reviews. He'll be in the description below if you want to check him out. And then we also have Jared from Avalanche Reviews, who makes a lot of retrospectives on survival horror games, RPGs, a lot of different things. Also, basically whatever interests him. A lot of long-form content. Of course, he'll be in the description below. And us together, we will be making videos for this little channel here. Our main showing is this. This is TouchPad. This is this whole set here. This is the new show. That's run completely by me once daily. It's daily right now, but like I said, I'm a college student, so I may get busy sometimes, may take a break, or maybe in a couple weeks I'll move the schedule down to 3 days a week. Right now it's just weekdays. Maybe one day I'll move it up to 7 days a week. We'll see how this goes. Things are definitely in flux here. We're all figuring this out, trying to see what's best and what really works. So you'll see me. You'll see our graphics change a lot. You'll see some of our branding on different platforms is unfinished. Still working on it. Right now I'm using my mouse or my touchpad. No pun intended. My touchpad on my computer for the teleprompter. I'm trying to get a remote. We're figuring things out here, but I hope you're along for the ride, and we love to have you here. So that is who we are, what we are. TouchPad in specific is this daily news show, as I mentioned. I go over 3 topics every day, 3 most important news stories from the last 24 hours, or maybe we'll mention something that I missed earlier in the week. It's scripted. I read from the teleprompter. I'm new to reading from a teleprompter. Please don't bully me. I don't know what else. What is else there to mention? Yeah, I get. Like I said, our design is kind of in beta right now, so you might see our motion graphics change, especially our motion graphics. That I made those. They're shitty. Don't worry. We'll get something nice here soon. But that's about all we have. I don't want to take up too much time. Let's go ahead and head to our first story. All right. So, in the past few weeks and months, there have been some rumors circulating that a few Xbox first-party titles that are currently exclusives would be coming to other platforms, such as Hi-Fi Rush was one of those. It's a smaller game. If you don't know, Shadow dropped at the beginning of last year, and this rumor made a lot of sense to me. Certainly no one was buying an Xbox for Hi-Fi Rush. It's a smaller title. And releasing it on another platform, you get some capital for the developer. Microsoft gets a few extra bucks to put in their profit reports. It makes sense, right? This is not a core exclusive for Xbox. It was also rumored that Sea of Thieves was losing its Xbox exclusivity. That also made a lot of sense to me. Sea of Thieves is that pirate game, first-person pirate game. You go around, explore. It's a live service game. Live service games live and die based on their player counts. So, releasing the game to other platforms, that's going to give your game a player boost to keep Sea of Thieves alive and well for longer. I know there are a lot of PlayStation gamers that I in particular also, I don't really like playing games on my PC. I have played some Sea of Thieves on my PC, and it's fun, but I don't know if I could play it on my PlayStation hooked up to the TV. It might have a higher chance of grabbing me. So that was kind of the spot we were at for a few weeks, right? We saw these reports coming out of new games and old games that Xbox had that they were kind of shopping around, seeing if they wanted to place on, I don't know, maybe Switch, maybe PlayStation. But now, as the story develops, there have been a lot of mounting reports and rumors to argue that Xbox might not be stopping there. The Verge reported that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle may be coming to PlayStation. That's the Bethesda Machine Games Indiana Jones game that was announced, I think that was last year, but we got to really see gameplay of it early this year, last month at Xbox Direct. But now we may even expect Starfield to make the switch. Make the switch, I say, no pun intended, make the swap. It leaves the question open to, what comes next? Do we see Halo on Switch? Gears of War on PlayStation? Xbox boss Phil Spencer has long pointed to moving Xbox towards becoming essentially a publisher and service provider, publishing games, launching them through Game Pass on non-Microsoft hardware. We've seen the Xbox gaming app playable on phones, computers. My Samsung TV has the Xbox Cloud app. They've been pushing towards having their games playable on, VR headsets. You could probably get the Xbox Cloud app on your smart kitchen refrigerator at this point. Like it is everywhere. And so, they've kind of discussed that Xbox is trying to really sell this Game Pass thing and their games as software, right? Rather than the hardware that they're selling. They even discussed introducing a streaming stick, like the Chromecast, essentially, of game consoles, which is just like a little piece that you stick in the back of your TV, and it does none of the computation on the box itself. It just streams it from the cloud. It's really all just a gateway to Game Pass and all of their cloud gaming software. So when you talk about it like that, it then becomes surprising that not surprising that eventually they want to have their games available on as much hardware as possible. So, in 10 years, if they were like, hey, we're putting Game Pass on PlayStation or something, I'd have been like, okay, I could see genuinely how that could happen. But what is really surprising is just how quickly this is happening and how much of a shift we've seen from Xbox in the past few years. They've been buying developers left and right, putting them to work on what we thought were exclusives, but these developers have multi-platform audiences. So it makes sense fiscally for Microsoft to launch these games elsewhere. That's what we expected Call of Duty to do. And for a couple days, maybe, we hoped that that's what they would have done with Bethesda. It just comes down to selling a balance of hardware and a balance of software. But does Xbox even care about the hardware market anymore? I mean, Phil Spencer, the very relatable CEO, rich businessman that he tries to be, has gone on record multiple times that, Xbox has been in third place. They lost the Xbox One generation. In order to survive, they have to adapt somehow. And I think me and a lot of the general industry journalists have kind of guessed that adaptation would be consolidation. Get players familiar with the series, and then, they're playing their Call of Duty or their Starfield or, whatever Bethesda game, Activision, Blizzard game, whatever. And, that all the games they like are now Xbox studios, so they're going to try to maybe buy an Xbox next time instead of a PlayStation. But instead, what we're seeing is them trying to get their games onto other people's hardware instead of making their own. Does that mean a focus on getting games to work on handhelds? We have the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, the Legion Go. We've seen them try to support that. There's the portable mode on Xbox Game Pass. But do we also see them try to put their games onto Sony and PlayStation boxes? On the Switch? That we have yet to see. Phil Spencer did post to Twitter a couple days ago saying that Microsoft will be giving a business update about this general situation in the next week. so we will have to wait until then for some more definitive answers. For now, all we can do is speculate. I personally am a fan of exclusives, but I'm a fan of less exclusives. It's not fun if you can only afford a PlayStation and you got to miss out on Starfield and Indiana Jones. It's equally not as fun if, I don't know, maybe all your friends have Xboxes. So you buy one to hop on Call of Duty, maybe Rainbow Six with them if you're an old head like me, but then you miss out on The Last of Us and God of War. I'm not a fan of less competition, though. And so if Microsoft were to completely exit the hardware space, we'd have Nintendo and Sony left over. And they're companies that have little overlap in what they're trying to achieve at a technical level. So it's really not like there's much competition there. I mean, look at Nintendo. They have no pressure to push out more powerful hardware or to polish their most popular games, Pokemon, or to innovate past day one of their console's releases. The only pressure they have is losing customers completely. And rather than customers moving to a different platform, it leaves their only choice is just to stop playing Nintendo games. So if it was a switch, no pun intended, actually maybe pun intended that time, to a Nintendo competitor instead, that would be a lot easier to consider in the realm of possibility, right? If you don't like the direction Sony is going, you can buy an Xbox. If you don't like the direction Nintendo is going, well, sucks, I guess. Xbox leaving would put PlayStation in that same situation as PlayStation. We could see innovation stifled. I mean, I'm not going to explain why less competition is bad at too much of a length. If you do want to read more about this story, though, do me a favor. Don't go to Twitter. I recommend Stephen Tottilo's wrap-up of it all on GameFile. Or, you could look at the source link below in the Notion, pull what I pulled from, read a few articles there. Twitter's filled with garbage right now about this. So do yourself a favor, read some real journalism about it. All right, our second story on the dock, all about PlayStation. From Xbox now to the Sony State of Play that we saw yesterday on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's some important information that I think you should know. First, obviously, Rebirth picks up where 7 Remake left off. So if you haven't played through 7 Remake, a lot of the things in this trailer are going to be a little bit confusing. Don't worry, it's confusing for me too. I still have to catch up on the game. So if you're someone who hasn't played a ton of the original or is, not super into the remake, I'll try to explain this at a level that's understandable for you. And if you are that kind of person who has played the original 20 times and loves the remake, you've probably already seen the state of play, so you know all this anyway. All right. Rebirth will essentially be covering the second half of the game if you want to really reduct it down to like what its simplest form is. They've said in the past it's this trilogy, so this is the second part of that whole story. And we're getting a huge open world with Rebirth. It's a bunch of connected spaces that you can transfer between, and you can use vehicles. You can ride chocobos, which are like the in-universe horses. There are Yakuza-esque mini-games, expanded dating sequences, and an all-new expanded portion of the Final Fantasy VII canon as a whole. If you are familiar with the original, you will know that Remake is significantly bigger and longer and deeper than the original. So this continues that trend. If you're excited for the game at all, I do recommend taking a look. I'm extremely spoiler averse. Spoilers just ruin my enjoyment of a game, and nothing in this pretty extended look looked like it would hinder my enjoyment at all. There's also a demo that released, which seems to be getting pretty good feedback on the good old Twitter and elsewhere. You can play as both Cloud and Sephiroth, and the demo will actually be getting an expansion. There's an update coming in the coming weeks that opens up a whole new playable area. I'm guessing that's coming out pretty soon. The full game comes out on February 29th, so it's got to be out in the next 2 weeks. So we'll see when it comes out. I'll let you know about it on the show. You can watch the whole State of Play and learn about everything Sony has to say about it in their blog post. Again, linked below in the description. Or obviously, you can just look up on YouTube Final Fantasy VII State of Play. Watch it there. There's also a final preview event. I believe this is the last preview event before the release of the game. IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, a few others got to play more of the game, went over to Japan, and you can see their thoughts in the links below. The general consensus is really good, but it's a huge game, so as always, I mean, with any preview, real criticism should be waived until reviewers get full access, but especially with this one, you're going to want to wait for the whole picture, I think, just to know, really what you're getting into. In more business-related news, and as originally reported by Bloomberg, but in Japanese, so I'm pulling from Gamatsu here, Square Enix is planning a slight restructure with their development arms. They say this is just to ensure quality. Hopefully no layoffs are made there. A lot of the time, restructure is just corporate speak for getting rid of people. But, this is translated. It's originally in Japanese. There's a lot of nuance there that you lose coming over to English as well. So we'll have to see what actually happens in the coming months. All right. Those are our first two news stories down. We have one last one for the day, and it involves my biggest source for all of today's news, IGN. I'm pulling the article about this from Aftermath for more the context involving this situation. Their workaround publication that started up last year. I really do recommend taking a look at their stuff. A lot of the writing is way more casual and conversational than most outlets. I love the writers there. They do a great job. It's not as kind of bland and news reportery, if that makes sense, as a lot of the bigger outlets tend to be. It makes for a nicer reading experience. If you don't like how dry games journalism sometimes tends to be outside of YouTube, I would really recommend. Why mention them that I'm using this, right? All my sources are in the doc. I usually don't mention my sources that directly because layoffs. They're an independent media organization. They're employee-owned. And media organizations like that are generally more averse to changing markets. They're able to adapt and keep people employed much easier than a big company. Being adaptable is not easier when you're someone like IGN, who is huge and has over 100 employees. And IGN themselves are now unionizing to hopefully try to combat that. Unionizing under the banner of the IGN Creators Guild. The guild says this is to ensure fair worker treatment, fair wages, and protection against AI and layoffs. If you're interested, you can sign their petition for the parent company of IGN to officially recognize their union. That makes things a lot easier in having a seat at the table and bargaining agreements, that sort of thing. I think unionization is a very important goal for games media and game devs. We've had a tumultuous couple of years. In the journalism space, we've had Vice layoffs, Washington Post layoffs. I know Game Informer has had a few in the past. Not to mention the thousands and thousands of games industry jobs as a whole that have been lost in the past month alone. I would not be surprised if we reach 10,000 games industry jobs laid off this year, just by itself. So the easiest solution to this issue is really unionization. It would be great if business owners and corporate leadership treated their workers well, but that's not the case in many of these companies. Unionization allows for worker protections that work for the workers in that specific industry. So that means we don't need government regulation or change the system as a whole. Unions at these bigger companies allow for job security, which isn't really a thing. Layoffs, again, especially on the dev side, happen every couple of months, seemingly, at some of these studios. So you could be on a job for 6 months and not even have enough time to build up an emergency fund, and you're out on your feet or out on your face in a couple months, and you have no emergency fund to tie you over. It just leaves people leaving the industry. Unions also allow for more competitive pay, meaning we get more talent. More people will be interested in the games industry if we actually pay them. And on the other side of the coin, you also have independent media. Unionization on one side for these big companies, smaller independent media organizations. That's where you can get the adaptation and the innovation that you can't get out of the big companies. If you want to read more about independent media, the general push to it over the last few years, and someone hear from someone who's been in this industry a long time and has seen some of the trends and changes over time. I interviewed Ben Hansen from MinMax. I have the link to it below. It's on my personal blog. You'll find generally that I'm a huge proponent of anti-artificial intelligence in games, as well as unionizations in parts of the industry that need it. So I'm always going to try to include stories like this to try to spread the word. Together, hopefully we can make this industry more sustainable, less stressful, and more fun. Okay, that is today's news stories for February 7th. Thank you for coming along. It's almost 2:15, so I really got to wrap this up. Try to get them posted every day at 3 o'clock. Sometimes I'll be late. I don't know. We'll figure this out. We're all trying to see what's going to happen as we get going here. Again, this is TouchPad, the hopefully daily news show. I'm Benny Gerkman. This is Cross Circle Squared, and I will see you tomorrow.